Hey guys, this is Echo Soundworks and you are checking out a massive tutorial for ADSR. In this video, we're actually going to be making a sound. I haven't done this in a while. I've been doing more of the quick tip and trick style video, but I got a bunch of requests on this specific video. You guys were asking how I actually made the sound, and I was kind of douchey about it, and I apologize. I said that was an easy sound to make because the quick tip for that specific video was how to do an LFO modulation that created like this sputtering effect at the start of the LFO, and it kind of went from fast to slow. And you can see that here on the screen. I have LFO 5 controlling the cutoff, and I have an envelope dialing back the rate of that LFO. Well, you guys, like literally 5, 6, 7 comments asking how to make the sound, so we're going to recreate that. So let's play this little demo real quick, and then we'll jump into recreating the sound. All right, so I have a couple third-party processing plugins occurring. I have the LFO tool applying a real little amount of sidechain compression, or the pseudo sidechain compression effect, so not a lot there. These plugins over here, sometimes you guys will comment on these. The sausage fattener, I have that set to 3%. Nothing's really going on there. I have the Fab Filter Pro limiter at plus 1.5. I just use these mainly to control clipping if I get really loud or I accidentally like turn up a synth or initialize a synth preset and it gets really loud. I do that so it doesn't kill your ears when you're watching the video. These aren't going to affect the sound that much. If they do, they might make them a little bit louder, but nothing's really coloring. These are both the colors down at 0. So it's not like these are coloring the timbre of the sound. Now, I do have the Valhalla Vintage Verb on. And if you want to look at these settings, you can if you have Valhalla Vintage Verb. If you don't have Valhalla Vintage Verb, definitely look into getting it. It is one of my favorite reverb plugins. It's only $50. But yeah, I have the mix real low. I have it set to now for the mode. This comes with 3 different modes, a little bit shinier sounding. I have the decay really low, the pre-delay really low, have the high shelf down all the way. Pretty basic, really. Not a lot going on. So we're going to jump in now to recreating this sound. So we have the initialized preset. All right, so let's take off the Valhalla Vintage Verb and the LFO. So now we're just rocking the actual default sound inside of Massive. So first thing you're going to do in Oscillator 1, you're going to keep it on a square saw. Now I created a couple macros with this sound, but we're not going to do those for this tutorial. So what you're going to do is keep the wavetable position all the way at the saw side of the wavetable position. Now the intensity dial back a little bit. The amp keep where it is, keep the filter slider where it is because we're going to be using both filters, so we want it in the middle. Now the pitch, I'd pitched up to, I believe, like 0.3 just to give it a little bit of variation with the pitch. Now that's going to be Oscillator 1. Now activate Oscillator 2, and we want a square saw wave again as well. We're going to detune this though to negative, we're going to go down to negative 11, or negative, so go to negative 12 and then go down to negative 11.94. Reason I'm doing this is, listen. Okay. If we just go down to 12. It's adding a level of thickness to the sound that I liked. So just doing some typical detune. Now the intensity, I pulled back a little bit on this as well. All right, so if you guys have ever watched my sound design videos, you know I have a little process. I like to generate the tone using the oscillators, especially if I'm working, or specifically if I'm working in a subtractive synth like Massive. It is, even though it's a wavetable, the filters are used to subtract the sound. So I got a nice bright tone right now. I'm going to go to the noise generator though, and we're going to add a little bit of white noise. All right. So that really sums up the tone of the sound. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go over and we're going to start to manipulate that tone with some filters. So we want to set this into a series, so it's hitting both of the filters here. And we're going to have it, for the filter 1, we're going to do daft. It's a nice analog, thick sounding one. The cutoff turn up a little bit. We're going to end up modulating this with an LFO, so you don't need to turn up a whole lot. And then the resonance, I had not too high, not too low. Well, not too low, I mean by not at 0, just a little boost. Okay, now let's go to filter 2, and we're going to turn that filter slider up, the volume slider for that filter. We're going to select a high pass 4. Okay, let's turn off filter 1 for now. Okay, so nothing's happening, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this mix knob down. Okay, so now we're going to leave this leaning, so it's a little bit more, so it's heavily more towards filter 2, but filter 1 will still be active. See here that difference right now. So we're turning this leaning down towards mix 2. So filter 1, because it's going in series, right? So up here in series mode, it's going to hit filter 1, then down to filter 2. So that's why we're turning it down. So we're going to turn that pretty much, so you just see a couple of the tick marks here. Okay, the cutoff. We're going to have down pretty low, just add a little bit of resonance. All right, so there's the filters. And while we're doing the filtering, let's go to the insert. And we're going to add the parabolic shaper, add a little bit of grit to it. I'm going to turn the dry wet down a little, turn the drive down a little as well. And then the routing, your insert effects should be right there. All right, so we've got the bulk of the sound made in terms of oscillators and filtering out the frequencies. Let's go to the voicing tab now and add some voices to this. So we're going to give it 4 voices of unison. Okay, so that's going to make it louder, so I'm going to turn it down. All right, and then we're going to do the pitch cutoff. We're going to turn that on. And we're going to just notch this in just a little bit, this slider. This is like the D tune. And we're going to go down to 0.85. We're going to end up modulating this in a minute, so that becomes important to the overall quality of the sound. Now we're going to do the pan position as well. This will spread out the voices of the unison voices in the stereo field. If it's right in the middle, it'll be mono. If it's out here, it'll be stereo, and this will be kind of like negative stereo over there. All right, so let's look at this. So we're going to leave it in the middle right now, or just slightly off middle. And we're going to modulate this as well in a little bit when we get to our envelopes. So now we have... All right, let's go to our envelopes now. We're going to go to the 4th envelope first, because that's what's controlling the sound. Now for this, I had the release up fairly high. I had the attack up pretty high, probably about 20-25%. If you get the release up and the attack to about the right point, this little line right here should be in the word delete somewhere. And then for the decay level, I just kept where it is, didn't do any morph points or anything like that. This helps the bass and the kick to come through for that whole future bass feel. All right, now let's go to our envelopes here, and we're going to go to envelope 2. And we're going to use this to do a couple pitch mods as well as a voicing mod. So we're going to do the attack really, really low, non-existent actually, turn the decay down, turn this level down, and the release should be where it is. So you should get this really short, decayed envelope shape. I'm going to go to my first oscillator, and we're going to modulate the pitch of this up to +12. Let's listen to this. It's adding that little zoom, zoom, but kind of high pitched in there. Couldn't really hum that if I tried. And now we're going to go to the second oscillator. We do the same thing with that second envelope, but go down in pitch. Hear that? Take those off. All right, so that's occurring. All right, now this same envelope we're going to use to modulate into the pitch cutoff or the unison, the D tune. So we're going to take this and we're going to drag it out a little bit past halfway. So what this is doing is it's basically saying, hey, I want the first part of the sound that is being controlled by the attack or this pitch. I want it to be more spread out and more detuned. So that's what we're doing. That's why I love Massive. You have these really cool visual ways to actually do your modulation. All right, now let's go to envelope 1, and we're going to do something with envelope 1 as well. So we're going to give it a little bit more of attack time, not as much as you gave envelope 4, and then the level keep where it is, the decay keep where it is, but turn that level down and turn the release up just a smidge under halfway. Okay, so let's do a little bit more attack here. Looks about right. Now we're going to use this to modulate into the pan position. We're going to modulate out quite a bit. So we're going to go to voicing again, and we were just a little bit off center to start with. Now we're going to go more towards full. Okay, so now we have that spreading out the frequencies. Now let's look at the difference of this with the gonio meter here. So let's look at our phase correlation meter. Now let's take off this envelope and put this out to where it was and see the difference and hear the difference. It stays much more closer to stereo or anti-phase, which I don't like, which is why I'm modulating with the envelope. All right, so we have the bulk of the sound done. Someone's getting a little bit long, but you guys wanted to remake this sound, so we're doing the whole kit and caboodle. All right, now we're gonna go to, let's go to the LFO, because that's important for this sound. Actually, scratch that. Let's go to the effects, because I did use some effects to kind of color the sound. All right, we're gonna go in the first effect slot. We're gonna use the chorus. And for this, the dry wet, I had down about 20-25%, I believe. The rate I had real slow. Offset, I had a little bit high. It's offsetting the chorus when the chorusing is happening. And then the depth had about halfway. So that's making it a little bit wider, and it's kind of coloring it a little. Now, I also used a phaser effect, and I think this is the one that confused you guys who tried remaking it. I think the things that you didn't do right were the things you couldn't actually see. You guys could see the stuff in the oscillators and the filters, so you probably nailed that, but you probably didn't do the pitch cutoff in the pan position in the chorus or in the phaser. You would have seen the phaser, unless I was on the EQ, or the chorus, but you wouldn't have seen the phaser, and I think the phaser is coloring the sound. So we're gonna go dry wet down. We're gonna turn the rate down a little bit. The feedback, I'm gonna keep where it is. The depth, I'm gonna crank up. Okay, let's turn those off. All right, and then let's go to the equalizer now. We're gonna take out a little bit of the lows because there's a bass, it's future bass, right? You usually have like an 808. All right, and then I did have a little bit of vibrato happening as well. So we'll just go here and turn the rate down and turn the vibrato macro, which will be there by default, up a little. All right, now to finish it off, we're gonna do the LFO. So turn your rate up to about 75-80%. Put the curve, X-Fade curve, all the way up to a sine, or the sinusoidal curve. You can do any curve you want, really. We're gonna modulate a few destinations with this. We're gonna modulate the cutoff, and we're gonna go out just a little bit with it here. We're also gonna modulate the noise a little bit with it. So we're gonna go in a negative direction though, so go downwards with your mouse. We're gonna do the insert effect as well with this LFO. We're gonna go up here. Okay, and then we're also gonna modulate the pitch a little bit, just to add some weird detune. So we're gonna go up 0.3 in Oscillator 2, and you can go probably a little bit higher than that, and we're gonna go up 0.6 in Oscillator 1. We'll do 0.7. Let's be crazy here. All right, so that's that. Now we're gonna go to we're gonna go back to that first envelope that we already created, and we're gonna pop that into the rate here and drag down for this LFO. Listen to what this does. Okay, so if I drag downwards with it, it'll kind of slow it down as it goes. If I go upwards with it, it'll speed it up. And that's what I did with the tutorial. All right, let's turn on the Valhalla and the LFO tool, and let's listen. So there you guys go. That's how I made that sound in that previous future bass tutorial video. If you guys have any questions or comments, let me know below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm Echo Soundworks. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I will see you next time.